This week on the Big Pauly channel, Super Bowl 45 coming 2 weeks from this Sunday. We got 4 teams looking for 2 spots in the big dance. How I think that this is going to be a New York-Chicago Super Bowl and why. Coming at you in just a little under 10 seconds from right now. Greetings everybody, this is Big Pauly coming to you from Pinellas Park, Florida on the 20th of January 2011. Today we talk about something a little more trivial than the world at large, professional sports. The AFC and NFC Championship games. AFC game is Pittsburgh and the Jets, the NFC game Chicago and Green Bay. Being played on the frozen tundra of Soldier Field this Sunday, where they're expecting temperatures in the upper teens to about 20 degrees as I record this on Thursday afternoon. Now, I tend to think with this being the eve of a possible strike year coming up, the summer of 2011, there is a disagreement between the players and the owners. Here we go down that road again. Mainly being a disagreement over the schedule. The owners want to bump the schedule up to 18 games. The players are saying, no, too many of us are getting hurt. We've seen instances of Austin Collie of the Indianapolis Colts wide receiver taking a couple of concussions during the season. The players are getting bigger, stronger, faster, so going to an 18-game schedule, I always thought the NFL had a good thing with a 16-game schedule. Not too long, not too short, like the college season where you play 12 games and then, oh, by the way, you come back in a month and play for a championship, as Auburn and Oregon did this year. By the way, congratulations to the son of my first high school principal at Largo High School, Gene Chiswick Jr., on winning the national championship for the Auburn Tigers this year behind the superb play of Cam Newton and a great defense. They beat Oregon to win the national championship a little less than 2 weeks ago. Now, professional football, professional sports in general, if politics can be rigged, I don't see how professional sports, even amateur sports, could be rigged. For instance, in professional football, John Madden always said in his video games and on his telecasts on the networks from Pat Summerall and Al Wankels and other people, that you could call a holding penalty in any play in professional football, especially passing plays. Now, if the officials did that, you'd see a lot of 10 to 8 games, and all the scores would be safeties. I mean, who would want to see that? You know, it takes 6 hours to play a game because of all the holding penalties and all the, half the distance to the goal lines you would see over and over and over again, and the defenses would rule the day. Now, do I think that officials can play a part in the outcome of the game? Sure they can, just as anybody else can. You saw that firsthand with the Jets-Patriots game, the divisional game, where the Jets won 28-21. Wasn't a close game at all. And the game was called very loose. The Patriots could have gotten, on 2 or 3 occasions that I could think of off the top of my head, illegal contact penalties. In this day and age, they try to give the offenses the advantage, and if you're a receiver, and if the defenders make contact with you 5 yards beyond the line of scrimmage, well, that's a penalty. Well, they didn't get called on at least 2 or 3 occasions that I could think of firsthand. So the Jets won basically because the officials called a very loose game. Now, I have not seen any studies as to officiating in the NFL like we see home plate umpires. They keep stats on home plate umpires and on ball strike calls. How wide is their strike zone? You don't really see that in the National Football League with the officiating crews, oddly enough. So officiating crews, they do play a part in outcomes of games, no question about it. Now, getting back to why I think it's going to be a New York-Chicago matchup in the Super Bowl. First off, the league is going to need to make money if there is a strike, and there will be buku money in a New York Jets-Chicago Bears matchup. First, let me look at the Bears and Packers for you. The Bears and Packers, they played more games against each other than anybody in NFL history, but this is only the 2nd time they have played each other for a game that really, really counts. In 1941, back when the NFL had about 10 teams and did not expand west of far beyond the Mississippi River. In fact, I don't think they had a team. They didn't have a team in St. Louis. They had it. They tried it during the 30s, but they did not have a full-time team in St. Louis until 1960. And the Cardinals eventually moved to Phoenix, and St. Louis got the Rams from Los Angeles. But they did not expand beyond the Mississippi until after World War II. And if there was a tie for the division, they played in 2 divisions of 5. Sometimes one division would have 6 teams, and one would have 5, 10, 11, 12 teams, something like that. If the teams tied for the best record in the division, they would have a playoff game like we see in baseball now. And in 1941, the Bears and the Packers were very good teams. So, and they ended up tied, so they had to have a playoff game to determine who advanced to play I think it was the Washington Redskins in the 1941 NFL Championship, and the Bears won the game in a rout. Since then, they have not played in the playoffs against each other. So, this is going to be a very interesting game just because these teams are rivals, and they've never played a game for such high stakes before in a long time. Last time they played 3 weeks ago, the Packers won in Green Bay 10-3. It was a low-scoring game despite a lot of yardage being racked up, about 550 yards between the two teams. I think you'll see a similar game, maybe a little more scoring. And I think that, going back to how officials can control games, I think lower-scoring games are easier to control than higher-scoring games because there's fewer scores happening. I know. Sounds like a John Maddenism, doesn't it? But anyway, I look for the Bears, home underdogs. Last time I looked earlier in the week, they were about 3.5, 4-point underdogs. Home underdogs, usually this deep in the playoff, usually play very, very well. Don't know how it's going to happen, but I have a feeling Chicago's going to pull this one out. Green Bay, a very qualified team, but you just can't keep... they beat Philadelphia, they beat Atlanta on the road. Beating teams on the road is a lot harder in the playoffs than you think it is. It's hard to get your emotions and your adrenaline pumping 3 weeks in a row on the road. So I'll give this one to Chicago. Now the Jets and the Pittsburgh game is going to be a different story. I like the Jets. The Jets are a very qualified team. Pittsburgh is too. Pittsburgh got a little lucky beating Baltimore 31-24 in the AFC division game they were in. Baltimore had a 21-7 lead at halftime, and they had some offensive miscues. Ray Rice committing a very rare fumble, and then when the score was tied 24-all, Pittsburgh threw a long pass to the 1-yard line right before the 2-minute warning, which eventually set up their go-ahead score. Baltimore got the ball at midfield with about a minute and a half left due to a 15-yard penalty that was assessed on the kickoff, but they could not move beyond the initial position they got on the kickoff return, which was about midfield. Now, Pittsburgh got a little lucky. The Jets beat the Patriots. The Jets are a team that I think is going to be the team of the decade. Very strong defense. The offense, they built all kinds of weapons around Matt Sanchez because he is a developing quarterback. He has not really played to his potential yet, but he will. He will turn his career around. The New York media put a lot of pressure on the Jets this year because of their strong performance last year, getting up to this level, losing to the AFC game to the Colts last year. Now, the Jets, I think they're going to pull it out against Pittsburgh. They played them, I think it was right around Christmas, and they beat them in Pittsburgh. I think they do it again because I think the Jets are an even better team now than they were then. So you're going to see a Jets-Chicago Super Bowl, by hook or by crook, maybe. Don't want to cast all kinds of dispersions on the NFL, but come on. They've never had the two top markets play in the Super Bowl before, and I think this is going to be the year. Jets and Chicago going to the Super Bowl. President Obama said yesterday that he will attend the Super Bowl in Dallas at Cowboys Stadium if the Bears win. Now, I take that for what it's worth, and I don't think it's worth, anything. So, Jets and Chicago. I would say I feel stronger about the Jets than I do the Chicago Green Bay game. Green Bay has played very, very well, but how many times can you win on the road in the National Football League? The Chicago will have something to prove being a home underdog. So that was my look at the world of sports this week. We'll be back with you early next week. So long until then.